What's happening, guys? Paladin here, and welcome to another video. Today I want to discuss a little bit about Despia. In these past big tournaments this month, the Nationals, WCQs, European Championship, everything. As you saw, the deck was represented a lot. Like many players chose to actually play the deck in those tournaments. It had representation, and it was also represented in like top 64, both in the European Championship and the North American WCQ that you see here, for example. As I told you, the deck was represented, so it was natural that some of those guys would actually enter the top 64. When a deck is highly represented, it's natural to actually for it to actually enter the top 64, the top cut, let's say. The deck did well, all right. For sure, it's not the best deck of the format, as you know. Like, it's pretty obvious right now that Castira it's by far the best deck of the format. Like, if I'm correct, in the North American WCQ, in the top 8, there were like 6 Castira, which on its own actually explains a lot. So, you actually get what I mean. The deck is not tier 1 right now. In the tier 1 spot, we can actually say that Castira is there, Labyrinth is there, and Runic Sprite is there. Like, those 3 decks, in my opinion, are, let's say, the top 3, and after that we have stuff like Rika, like Dragon Link, Despia, and some other stuff also. That's not the point, though. Anyway, the deck did pretty well, I won't lie. Like, it was the results were actually good, in my opinion. We saw some misplays in both in the European Championship and the North American WCQ. But in my opinion, I can actually personally justify those, because when you are playing in front of others, in front of many people, on live stream, there's pressure, you're nervous, you're maybe tired also. So I personally justify those. Anyway, like, an example I can think of, it's a player, if I'm correct, in the North American WCQ, that threw Lulu in the graveyard with Mirror Jade's effect. So anyway, some stuff like that happened in those tournaments, but as I said, there's pressure, people are tired, they were like playing 2 days straight to actually reach top cut, so it's fine, I guess. That's not the point, though. The point of the video is that the Despia deck right now, it may not be tier 1, but it has some issues. What do I mean with that? Right now, for example, aside from the Ash Blossom problem, like that's pretty standard. You know that if an Ash Blossom resolves on your Blood Effusion, you have a problem. Like, regardless, if you main Cross Out, if you main Duality, if you main whatever, Ash Blossom will always be a problem, because you won't always have the Ash Blossom counter in hand to actually dodge it. So aside from the Ash Blossom problem, the deck has actually, this format, other issues. What do I mean with that? Bestials right now, the engine that was supposed to help Despia also is way better in Dragon Link. Like, if you saw some streams, you saw that Dragon Link right now, it's a hell of a deck. So Bestials, I won't lie, hurt Despia. They hurt your end phase effects in the graveyard. They can hurt if you go and fuse with Albion to get into whatever. It's a deck that actually doesn't hit only Despia, it actually hits any deck that plays light and dark monsters. But it does hurt Despia a lot. Like, regardless what many people say, BCLs right now are a problem for this deck. Like, there's no fucking way they can hit you. All the deck is like full of darks and some lights. So BCLs can actually interrupt this deck. And BCLs right now are very, very popular. Dragon Link is a hell of a deck. BCL Synchro is also a deck that, in my opinion, will become more popular as days go by. So that's another, let's say, deck that also can counter Despia, and it's also a bad matchup in my opinion. Other than that, Castira is also a problem. Like Shifter, actually right now Shifter kills almost all the decks. In Despia, it doesn't hurt as much, but it actually forces you to go for Dragoon, and you can't actually play with the graveyard, so you can't actually have the resources that you want to have, which is one of the highlights of this deck. You know, having the resources, the follow-up, that cannot happen under Shifter. And of course, Arise Heart is a hell of a card. Like, there's no doubt about that. Especially if it has the materials from the extra attached to it, like the infinite tracks and stuff. It's not easy to get rid of. Like, for example, under Arise Heart you can't do Mirror Jade's effect because it's a cost, as you know. So in that matchup you only have Dragoon. Rimbram is not that as good, in my opinion, as Dragoon, for example. So Dragon Bestials, or Bestial Dragon Link, whatever you want to call it, and Castira, in my opinion, are not the best matchups right now. Another matchup that is also bad for the deck, but that's mostly if you go second against that, is Labyrinth. Like, Despia always struggled versus decks that had main floodgates, stuff like Dimensional Barrier, for example. So Labyrinth, I consider Labyrinth as a bad matchup for this deck personally. Like, you can't really do shit if they open the barrier or skill drain or stuff like that. Generally the deck struggles, and against decks that play a lot of back row, floodgates, etc, etc. So Labyrinth is also not as good matchup as people may think of it to be. And finally, Runix. Runic Sprite may not be as bad, but the problem is that Runic, whenever it's involved in a deck, it actually provides many resources. Like, it's not easy to out-resource Runic, even with Despia. Like, that draw up to 3 cards every turn after you use your spells from hand, it's fucking broken. Like, I don't know why Konami didn't actually hit that field spell more. Like, they semi-limited it, and people only played 2 from the start. Like, that was fucking insane in my opinion. But anyway, so as I said, we have Shifter with Arise Heart, which basically they are a problem for any deck right now. Bestials are a problem for Branded, because they can actually hit any target in your graveyard. And the funny thing is that lore-wise, that engine was supposed to help Despia, but it's way better in other decks. So I find it kind of funny Alright. So bestials are also a problem for this deck. Back row is also bad for this deck, like skill drains, deep barriers, stuff like that can also hurt Despia. And as I said, also Runic is not really an easy matchup for this deck. Overall, the problem that I personally find the most annoying when it comes to this deck is that it has a very, very large engine. Like, for example, other decks have a lot of space in their main deck to play non-engine stuff, to play hand traps, to play talents, to play pods, to play board wipes, whatever. Despia doesn't have that luxury, let's say. It has a very, very large engine. And in order to actually add stuff like that, you need to make the deck more than 40 or 45 cards, which sometimes ruins the consistency. So that's, in my opinion, the major problem that Branded has. Like, in my opinion, Branded mostly loses on its own, to itself. You know what I mean? Like, it has the biggest choke point out of the top meta decks right now, which is As Blossom on Branded Fusion. And the second one is like the fact that it's not able to have space in the main deck for non-engine stuff. Like, as I told you before, I play Castera in real life. That deck has a shit load of space to play hand traps, to play board wipes, to play prosperity, to play Book of Moon or whatever. Despia doesn't have that luxury. Other decks also have that. Like, the only deck that doesn't really run many non-engine stuff, but it's full gas and basically it benefits from it, it's Basel Dragon Link. Like, in my opinion, that's the only deck that's pure gas right now and can actually perform really well. Like, in my opinion, if Shifter wouldn't be on in this format, or Ice Heart, Dragon Link would probably be easily tier 1. Easily. Like, that deck right now is very powerful. Good thing with Despia is that it hasn't won a major event. So that's good and bad at the same time. It's good because it can actually go under Konami's radar, so it won't get hit, for example. But it's pretty bad because, you know, the deck hasn't done as well as people wanted to do. For example, it has won some nationals, especially some small ones, like with 100 people or 200 people. But in the big ones, here in Europe, for example, in Italy or German or UK, it hasn't performed as well. Like, Despia is a deck right now that can reach top 8 pretty easily. Like, there's no tournament that, at least in the top 16, there is not even one Despia. Like, Despia always has one representation in the top 16 in a big tournament, which is good. But it's not the deck that can actually push through and win a big event right now. Like, for example, Castera has dominated the fucking format very easily right now. It won. It would actually win also the European Championship. Yes, if it wasn't for that misplay in the finals. Like, Castera right now, it also won the North American WCQ. That I told you that there were like 6 Castera in the top 8, which is absurd. So Castera, for example, is a deck that can actually push through and win big events. Despia doesn't have that. And it has one massive choke point, as I said, which is As Blossom. And secondly, the fact that it cannot run non-engine stuff. That's the two big drawbacks, in my opinion, that actually don't let the deck do better. Like, Despia has a huge potential. It has gotten too many cards because of the lore, you know, so many supports. It's not missing anything. Like, it's great in terms of resources, it's explosive, it can actually break boards, it has also the ability to go into the locks like the puppet one or whatever, but it has the two drawbacks that I've just mentioned. Those two, in my opinion, are keeping the deck from actually be on the Kastura level, to say it more, to say it that way. All right. So these are the problems that, in my opinion, the deck has. The two that are within the deck, and in my opinion, the deck mostly loses to itself, which is the Ash Blossom on Brother Fusion, and secondly, the space that the deck doesn't have in the main for non-engine stuff. Like, you know that yourselves, whenever we tried on stream or in the videos that you see on the channel, to actually include non-engine stuff like hand traps or whatever, we had to go like over 45 cards, or at least 45 cards. You can't really run 40 cards in this deck and also run non-engine stuff. And going over 45 sometimes may ruin the consistency. Because this deck is not like the rest that can actually run Prosperity or stuff like that. Duality is a card that actually may help, but as I told you on stream, also here on YouTube, it's a card that is unsearchable. If you don't open it, it's kind of useless later on. It won't help you. So right now it's like a 50-50 for me. Now their Servant is way better. I find it better, I won't lie. Like, even if your Branded Fusion resolves, we can actually help you make a better board or gain more resources. So Duality is good, but is unsearchable. You can actually use it. It's not useful after 10-1. So in my opinion, there's nothing right now out there that can actually fix the Ash Blossom problem. That's why I've mentioned Duality. Crossout is good, or we also have One Call by the Grave, but they are not enough. They're not enough. Like, that Ash Blossom problem will always exist. I don't know what kind of support the deck may get in the future, because Konami has said that maybe the deck's lore is not over yet, and there will be, you know, a continuation, let's say. But I don't think that will happen soon enough. So till then, the Ash Blossom problem will actually exist. So that's my opinion regarding the deck right now. I think that it has performed pretty well in the big tournaments this season, let's say, but it's also missing that one thing that can actually push it to the Kastura level, to actually go to an event and win it, not only enter the top 8. And as I said, in my opinion, the deck mostly loses to itself. It's not about the other decks. Like, as I said, alright, Shifter is a thing, Floodgates are a thing. Those stuff actually hurt everything. It's not only about Despia. The deck's problem is mostly Ash Blossom, as I said, and the fact that it cannot run non-engine stuff. These are the two problems that, in my opinion, the deck has right now. I don't know. I really want to actually hear your opinion to see what you guys think about it. But I've been playing this deck since Dawn of Majesty, and before Brand Diffusion came out. And personally, I find that these two are the drawbacks that are keeping the deck behind, that don't actually allow it to push through and go and dominate, let's say, like Kashtira does right now. I don't know what the next ban list will bring. Kashtira will probably get hit. I don't know what kind of hit they have in their minds. Shifter would be a good start, in my opinion. Like, Shifter right now is actually gatekeeping too many decks. And also the new ones that come out in the Duelist Nexus. Many strong decks are coming out right now. Like the Synchrons are good, Infernable Knights are also good. Purely also gets a support card that can actually boost the deck a lot. So there are many contenders that start to appear in the format, which can actually make things more complicated about Branded. So that's what I had to say. So in other words, as I said, it's the Ash Blossom problem, the fact that the deck cannot run non-engine stuff. These two are the basic stuff that regarding the deck on its own. Other than that, Bestials counter the deck pretty hard right now. Shifter and other stuff like Floodgates, etc., etc. So this is what I had to say. This is my opinion about the deck right now. It's good. It's in a pretty good spot. In my opinion, is like it may be in the top 5. If not, it's like 6th or 7th in the the pie, let's say. Generally, is a good deck. In my opinion, if anything gets hit on the next list, that's Puppet. I don't think that they will go and limit Brand Diffusion. Like, I find the card pretty fair right now. I believe that there's no fucking reason to actually hit the card. Like, it gets very, very easily stopped. It's a huge choke point for this deck. Like, there's no reason, in my opinion, to go and hit Brand Diffusion. If the deck would actually, top more, do more stuff, maybe yeah, but right now there's no fucking reason to go and hit Brand Diffusion when you have so many other stuff to hit. Like Shifter, for example, is one of them. Magnamut can also go to 1, for example. Fenrir, definitely 100% is a card that should go to 1. Fountain also is a card that should go to 1. Those cards are way, way more impactful in the format. I don't think that Konami should hit something like Brand Diffusion before it hits those cards. So in my opinion, if anything gets hit, that's Puppet. And that's pretty much it. I don't think that... some people, and I kind of laugh with that, some people actually want Albion banned, the new fusion from Cyberstorm Access, because it's actually the card that allows the deck to do the locks. In my opinion, there's no real reason to do that. Like, you hit the Puppet, the rest of the locks can actually be removed from the board. Rise Disciple, Ido, and stuff like that needs to be on board to actually do something. So, you can just dark hole them, let's say, for example. So in my opinion, no, Albion is not a card that should be touched. Like, fuck the Puppet and that's it. That's pretty much it. And Brand Diffusion is not a card that right now is that impactful in the format to say that it would get hit. I wouldn't be surprised if they would hit it. Like as you saw in the previous list, they kind of hit almost all the decks, all the top decks, and they they killed some decks like Samurais that were only meta for like 15 days. So I wouldn't be surprised if Konami goes straight and say, "Hey, let's hit Despia also." But I don't think that will happen. No, Despia, it's kind of fair right now. It's maybe the most fair deck out of the let's say top six decks right now. I find it the most fair one. Like there are other stuff that Konami should hit before that. So anyway, that's pretty much it. That's what I had to say about the deck's weaknesses, what I think that should be fixed. I'd really like to hear from you guys to see what you guys have to say about your thoughts on the deck, what you guys think that needs to get fixed, generally your experiences this format with Despia. So comment down below whatever you want to say. I'll make sure to also answer all the comments. So this is pretty much it. Thank you for watching. See you next time.